guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled Trust Me, You Don't Want Your Own Toilet. So this happened when I was 23. I had recently started my job as an engineer in training, EIT, with a firm in the structural engineering department. My firm thought it was important for the new guys to have experience on site while our projects were being built, as this helps us to understand what construction crews need to see on our plans, as well as getting an understanding of how to address issues that come up during construction. So I was working as an inspector on an overpass construction project. I have world-class IBS, and this had peaked when I was 23 to the point where I had to wear a diaper any time I was out of the hosu. This was considered a disability, and my firm had to provide me with my out porta-john that I was the only who had a key for right outside of the job trailer. The construction crew hated this, and I had so many snide comments and flack thrown my way for it. They thought I was too good to use the toilets provided for the crew. The lock on the porta-john was cut off several times, and they replaced it with one I did not have the key for. This was really frustrating, but it was easy enough to get around. This culminated with someone putting an eco-block, a several thousand-pound concrete block, in front of my toilet, so I did not have access to it. During the safety meeting the next morning, these happened every morning, I stood up and told them about what someone had done, to general snickering. And then, as I had stopped giving a duck about what people thought about my issue, said, "As soon as any of you have to wear a diaper at all times," I flashed the band of my diaper, "then you can get your own toilet as well." Dead silence. Don't think I could have made these guys more uncomfortable than I did by admitting my incontinence. Never had an issue with anyone on the crew again after that. Got on new meds a few months later. EHICH helped immensely. Not 100% sure if this is where this belongs, but I could not think of a better sub. The next story is titled My Entitled Brother Strikes Again. So, it's been a while since I've posted about my annoying, stubborn, and entitled younger brother, but recently, he's probably been the worst that he has in a very long time. To catch you up, I last posted about my brother, Eb, about 9 months ago, talking about how he'd constantly walk into my room just to see what I was doing. To teach him a lesson, I misplaced a few things in his room, and he demanded that I go back to his room to clean it up. Of course, I told him I wouldn't, and that only made him angrier. I tried not to argue, and he ended up cleaning it on his own. He never really stopped even after following some of your advice from my last post. Well, like I said, he's been acting even more entitled recently. He refuses to help with chores, leaving me to do them all, constantly discourages our mom, who recently got a job as a teacher, and just acts rude wherever he goes. He won't acknowledge that he's the one being annoying and even says I'm the entitled one. I go out of my way daily to pick up where he drops off, but it's getting exhausting. Today, he refused to help prepare dinner, but stayed in his room watching YouTube and talking to his friends on Snap while everyone else helped. He spends hours a day on his phone and even lied to everyone that he has set his screen time to only 3 hours a day. I have to nag him to do chores, but they always end up on me. I'm also convinced that he joined cross-country and wrestling just to avoid chores, and I'll admit, it's working pretty well. Today, he told my mom that she should quit her job and that she didn't need to work. He claimed that my dad was making enough for the family already, which isn't even close to being true. He also said that her being a teacher causes more harm than good for the family. He basically alluded to her being a completely worthless part of the family. My mom is going through a lot of depression at the moment, so that was just what she needed to hear. He doesn't realize how good he has it, and now, I'm not sure what I can do. Thanks for listening to my rant. Hopefully, you will have some useful advice, and you may go now. The next story is titled House-Sitting Beggar with Peculiar Ideas. Professor asks if someone could do house-sitting while they travel overseas for 4 months. That included taking care of chickens and turkeys in the backyard. So far so good. I could have used the place to stay and would have happily changed my 5-minute commute to my lab to a 25-minute one. Was in the process of moving out from my current place at that time, and my wife and former roommate didn't get along well. Overall, sounded like a win-win situation. Couple emails later, I'm visiting their place to go through things and what needs to be done in the house while they're gone. As expected, regular work with the poultry, and I would need to come by at least 4 days a week if I wouldn't stay there. Till there everything seemed fairly normal, till there. I mean, who doesn't like free fresh eggs? Then he says, I'd be welcome to stay there while they're gone, but it would be appreciated if I could then see that the garden stays in decent condition and stuff. I'd also be welcome to use the pool and other things. How much I'd be able to pay per month. Even said that they initially had looked to get the house leased to a family for the duration of the trip. Wonder how many families are looking to get a sublease for 10 weeks at full price. I answered that as he would know, I'm just a grad student and my income is fixed and not much, as well as B, my current lease was still running and I would still need to pay rent there. So I wasn't sure if I could pay anything in the first place. They said they'd think about it but would otherwise be happy to have me watch the house. 2 days later, 10 days before they'd leave in the trip, I get a text. They ask me for $500 a month, and while they would keep the utilities in their name, that I pay for what I use during my stay in the house too. I simply answer that I wouldn't be comfortable to commit to an agreement that I was sure I wouldn't be able to afford. While I'm always happy to help, other people pay house and pet sitters for their service. This one wanted to get paid by me to watch his house, feeding and taking care of the poultry, watering the garden, keeping things clean, taking the longer drive to work, show up there multiple times a week. I feel really sorry for the poor soul that probably ended up actually paying them for the service they do. The next story is titled Am I the A-hole for not letting my cousin and her cat to stay at my house because I hate cats? I know I'm going to get a lot of hate from cat people, but I have to be honest. I hate cats. I think their litter boxes are gross and I can't stand the smell of cat urine. Also, everyone involved in this situation are adults. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, here's my problem. My parents are hosting Thanksgiving this year and they invited immediate and extended family. It's going to be huge. My siblings and I own our own houses, so we're splitting up out-of-town family members so no one will have to overpay for hotel rooms. I'm hosting the single cousins so they can have a little fun outside of family time. My cousins started to arrive yesterday. Shelby arrived, and when I opened the door, I saw her standing there with a big smile, her luggage, and a pet carrier. I pointed to the carrier and asked what's that. She happily told me that she just adopted a cat and didn't want to leave it at home with her roommates. I stood at the door for too long without letting her in, so things got awkward. I admit I didn't have a no pets rule, but I didn't think I had to. I thought that asking the host if they're cool with pets before bringing them was one of those unwritten rules that people just automatically follow. You know, like you don't have to tell every adult coming into your house not to pee in the kitchen sink. Besides, no one else brought their pets and a couple of them own dogs. Finally, she asked if she could come in, and that brought me back to my senses. I told her I don't allow pets in my house and that her cat can't come in. She thought I was joking, but when I didn't move, we started to argue. The other cousins came to see what the commotion was about, and, in the end, a couple of cousins left with her while the rest remained. My parents called to chew me out, saying that I could have put up with Shelby and her cat for a couple of days while I argue that it's rude to bring a pet without asking first. Plus, I don't want my house to smell like cat urine. They said I'm making Thanksgiving awkward, and now I feel a little bad. I don't feel bad enough to let Shelby and her cat in though. Am I the a-hole for not letting my cousin and her cat to stay at my house because I hate cats? Comment said not the a-hole. The absolute nerve in just showing up with a pet without telling the host is crazy. Never in a 1,000 years would I ever think it'd be appropriate to do such a thing. Another comment said not the a-hole. You are right that it is pretty much an unwritten rule not to just show up with an animal. Do not bend on this, because if you let the cat stay there once, it will happen again. The next story is titled Mill Tried to Make Us Jealous but Ended Up Getting Jealous Herself. I was going to post this on Just No Mother-in-Law but feel like it fits better here. Mill has always been bitter that I took her son away from her. She's the queen of negging and I am often her #1 target. She loves to make me jealous, sends pictures of her new cars, sends pictures of her new house, sends pictures of her designer handbags, etc. Saying, "Isn't it great I can afford all this?" Mill didn't invite us on vacation last summer. She invited and paid for her other son, his GF and the GF's sister to go. She bought them designer souvenirs and sent us pictures every day of their vacation captioned, "I bet you're so jealous." Not 3 months after she excluded us from her vacation, my parents invited us on their vacation. We accepted. Mill was furious. Jealousy is not a good look on her. She threw a tantrum saying that she was losing her little boy and that she wanted to be the best mom in the world. She was so jealous that my mother is getting more attention than her. She cried about how she never sees us and how we've always shown blatant favoritism towards my parents. The best bit of all this, it was at this moment so decided to tell her that we are moving 5 hours away, to my parents' city. The next story is titled, Tales from the Front Desk, the Scottish Tick Karen. We've all been there. You're working as usual, a slow day and suddenly in she walks, that one person, blessed by the old gods of Karen. The one who thinks rules, laws and regulations do not apply to her and will engulf everyone else in righteous rage if her demands are unmet for any reason, be it legal or otherwise. Greetings, wanderers, to one more chapter of Tales from the Front Desk, a collection of tales I gathered while working at vet reception. This one happened to yours truly, like all the previous ones. It was lunchtime on a fairly normal day. I was minding my own business at reception when in she walks, our Karen of the day, a fairly normal middle-aged woman, with barely a smile, a stern expression and a no bullcrap attitude. She asks for flea and worming medication for her dog. A perfectly normal procedure. I ask for her name and the dog's name so I can pull the file and check if they're ready for collection. She sighs and rolls her eyes as if I'm being a nuisance to her and I smell the expensive aroma of trouble in the air. This one is going to be a handful. I'm a client here, I just want some flea and worming medication. What do you need my file for? I proceed to gently explain to her the most basic of basic procedures for requesting prescription medication. The flea and worming medication we prescribe and sell at the clinic is, well, prescription, so it needs to be ordered with at least a couple of days in advance, so that the vets have time to do the prescriptions, put out and complete the orders. She looks at me with the air of disgust reserved for extremist religious Puritans at Pride and then proceeds to condescendingly explain my job to me. That my job is simply to go inside, get the medication she is asking for and selling it to her. At this point, I am just looking at her, blank-faced, but calm. I want it to dawn on her how unreasonable she's being. I try to reason with her. I politely argument around her reasoning and manage to convince her to at least tell me enough data to pull out her file. Now I want to know. I pull out her file and notice the dog hasn't been seen in the past 2 years. I explain to her that in order to be able to prescribe medication, we need to have seen the dog recently, the time depending on the medication type, between 3 months to a year maximum. The flea and worming medication was the latter category, so, in order to be able to receive a flea and worming medication prescription, she needed to come in for an yearly checkup with her dog, for which I cheerfully offer her an appointment. She looks at me like I had just insulted her ancestors. You're joking, right? I'm not, madam. I then proceed to explain to her that it's not our procedure. It's the law. She is absolutely outraged. She claims it's the first time she's hearing of this, which unwittingly shows how much she cares about defleaing and deworming her dog. I proceed to do my job and advised her to come for a checkup, anyway, since he hasn't been seen or vaccinated for 2 years, so we might as well take care of all of that in one go and get her the prescription at the same time. She then proceeds to explain why, all of a sudden, she wants anti-tick medication. They were going to Scotland. They were taking the dog. They were going to be out in the fields. There would be ticks. They were leaving in half an hour. And it'd be my fault if the dog got ticks in Scotland. At this point I'm just pressing my fingers against the bridge of my nose trying to remain calm in the face of Karen. You can't imagine the quantity of people who are completely neglectful to their pets, and when we refuse to do something dangerous and illegal, they say that their pets are going to suffer and it's our fault. She demands to speak to a vet. So I go inside and find the vet. He was calmly eating his lunch, after a very busy lunch hour of multiple surgeries. I proceed to explain what was happening at the front desk, that the woman demanded to speak to him. He simply said, no. I confirm with him if the information I told her was right. It was 110% right. I ask him what should I do if the woman insisted. He very calmly said something he couldn't say to the client in her face, and I won't repeat here. You get the gist. I get back to her. I tell her unfortunately the vet was busy and couldn't speak with her at the moment, but that I had confirmed with him that all the information I gave her was correct and the only way we could get prescription medication was by booking an appointment. She asked me again if I was joking. She behaved as if I had personally offended her. She tried to convince me once more that she knew my job better than I did and that I was surely too stupid to understand simple orders, because I simply had to get a box of the stuff and give it to her. She tried to make me into the bad guy because I didn't care about her dog's health. She basically went through every stage of manipulation, and in the end, she was just stormed through the door, saying she would never come back here. Good riddance, Karen. I never saw her again. I just felt sorry for the dog, really. The next story is titled "Okay, Tell Me I'm Not Crazy Guys." I'm brand new to the front desk world, worked in pizza places for 10 plus years before this job, and I began training November 3rd, in the morning, for 2 weeks. In that time, 2 different trainers passed me back and forth almost every 2 days, and the other new guy had worked at a hotel before, so I'm the only brand new employee at this time that has no clue what he's doing. I've done my best to retain all info I've been taught, but it's been a lot at once. The computer check-in system, Mr., is from the 90s and I'm 31. So going back in time to learn this technology has been a bit of a challenge, and annoying as hell, for me. Fast forward to the end of training, and I start working overnight. I wanted to do overnights because I'm already a night owl, but it's obviously not as busy during this time. So my experience level hasn't exactly skyrocketed these past 2 weeks. My one supervisor is nice when all the other employees are around, but as soon as Thursday rolls around and it's only me and the older Spanish lady out on the floor all night and I make a mistake or two, she turns into a raging idiot. Then says she came to work in a bad mood already, and is just looking out for me. So making me feel like a complete idiot for not knowing every single in and out of the outdated system is acceptable? There's a bit of a language barrier between the older lady and I, so I don't feel comfortable asking her questions when we get busy. She acts like she doesn't know what I am trying to ask her anyways, so I gave up on trying to ask for help. The supervisor sits in her little side closet room alone while I'm checking groups in with specific demands that I'm trying to learn and abide by as I'm learning the regular way to check people in as is. Am I crazy for feeling singled out for making the same mistake back to back when I have no time to even think how to correct myself or catch the mistakes I am making them? Last night the idiot says I don't know how you're doing it, but you keep booking people in dirty rooms. You did it 3 times, well maybe if you weren't hiding your fat ass behind the wall and would come out and help me I wouldn't be so nervous with a line of 15 glaring at me fumble through the keyboard wondering why I can't get to the next screen. Somebody please tell me I'm not insane because the way I am being gaslighted at work is making me feel like a ducking idiot, and I thought I was getting the hang of things. I do know for a fact that the guests like me better than the supervisor and that older Spanish lady. I am always kind and apologetic for any of my own mistakes as well as the others around me, or just negative situations that have occurred for guests throughout their travel to the resort. Honestly, I think I've received more positive feedback from guests than the people who are supposed to be training me. I have to get ready and be at work at 11, I'll be checking back to see what people think. Please be honest, I want to be the best employee I can be, and I know I'm not a dumb ass. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.